You live next to someone, share every day with them, and then suddenly realize you've been strangers for a long time. Exhaustion, glowing phone screens, short answers instead of real conversations. You believe, you hope, you fight. You book tickets, change the scenery, try to revive what has already died. But the truth still finds its way, cutting sharper than any knife. One careless touch, one glance that's a little too warm, one smile that was never meant for you. In that moment, it's not just trust that shatters. The whole world collapses. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the betrayal itself. The hardest part is seeing with your own eyes how easily you were forgotten, how quickly you were replaced. And then comes the question, will you keep enduring it, or will you burn it all to the ground? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. One evening, I set down 2 mugs of tea on the kitchen table and faced her. Hannah, I began carefully, something's not right between us. You've been distant. She lifted her eyes from her phone, her thumb poised mid-scroll. What are you talking about, Nathaniel? I'm just overwhelmed. Work's been crazy. Work, I repeated flatly. It's always work. I tried to recall the last time we'd truly connected, not just exchanged pleasantries or coordinated schedules, but had a real, meaningful conversation. After 7 years of marriage, it felt like we had drifted into different worlds. Back in the beginning, everything between us had been effortless, almost electric. We had been inseparable. But life crept in. Responsibilities, deadlines, bills, slowly wearing away at the bond we once had. It wasn't that the love had vanished, or at least I didn't think so, but something essential had eroded. More and more, Hannah seemed like a stranger under the same roof. Her mind was always somewhere else, her attention perpetually divided, and rarely on me. I wasn't willing to watch us slip away without a fight. I thought a change of scenery might help, a chance to escape the weight of daily life and rediscover each other. With that hope, I set my mug aside and met her gaze. I booked us a trip, just the 2 of us, to the Caribbean. I tried to mask the urgency in my voice, though part of me clung to it desperately. For a moment, her face softened, and I thought she might smile. Instead, she sighed and set her phone down. I don't know, Nathaniel. Things are crazy at work right now. This might not be the best time. No, I said, keeping my tone even but firm. It's exactly the right time. She hesitated, her lips pressed into a thin line before finally nodding. All right, the Caribbean it is. I should have paid more attention to the way her gaze flickered back to her phone the moment our conversation ended, but I was too relieved to notice. I convinced myself, foolishly, that we were finally moving in the right direction. When we reached the resort, the setting was everything we could have asked for. Picture perfect. The sky stretched out in an endless expanse of blue, the ocean sparkled in shades of turquoise, and the breeze was warm and gentle. Hannah, however, seemed elsewhere. We stood on the balcony of our suite, gazing out at the view. It's beautiful, isn't it? I said, slipping an arm around her waist. Yeah, she murmured distractedly, pulling out her phone. Just need to check something real quick. Hannah, I said, sharper than I intended. Can't you put that down for a minute? She blinked, surprised. It's just a quick text, Nathaniel. Relax. She turned slightly, her fingers flying across the screen, the light from the phone illuminating her face. The gnawing feeling in my gut tightened, but I tried to push it away. By the 3rd day, it was impossible to ignore. Hannah vanished for hours, long walks, spa visits, always with her phone close by. She'd glance at the screen and smile, as if sharing a secret with someone I couldn't see. That night, I couldn't stay silent any longer. "Hannah, what's going on?" I asked. She stiffened, defensive already, glancing at the phone lying on the nightstand. "What do you mean?" "You're glued to that phone. You're never around. Wasn't this supposed to be about us?" She crossed her arms, her defenses locking into place. "I'm just keeping up with work. You know how demanding it is. It doesn't pause just because I'm on vacation." "Work?" I said, disbelief sharpening my voice. "You expect me to believe you're fielding work calls between laughing fits at your phone every few minutes?" For a fleeting second, a flush crept into her cheeks, guilt flashing across her face, but it disappeared almost instantly. "You're making this into a bigger deal than it is. This trip was meant to be relaxing, but you're the one turning it stressful." I wanted to believe her, desperately, but the signs were all there, too clear to ignore. The next morning, she mentioned attending a beachside yoga class. Something about the way she said it set my nerves on edge. Against my better judgment, I followed her. I felt ridiculous, skulking around the resort like some amateur sleuth, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I found her at a secluded table near the shore, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, dark-haired, and exuded a casual charm. She leaned toward him, her hand brushing his, and he said something that made her laugh again. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in months. Rage burned inside me. That evening, I acted as if nothing had happened. When she returned to the suite, she spoke lightly, weaving a story about meeting a couple from Boston during yoga. "They're great," she said breezily. "We might grab drinks with them later this week." "Sounds great," I said, my voice calm and even. Inside, my mind was racing. I already knew what she wasn't saying. Her easy laughter, the casual way she moved, it all reeked of deceit. But I held my tongue. If she thought I was clueless, it would make it that much easier to uncover the truth. The following morning found us lounging on the balcony when Hannah casually mentioned she had booked a massage at the resort spa. "They say it's incredible," she remarked, slipping into a loose sundress and picking up her phone. "I'll be gone for a couple of hours." I forced a smile. "Take your time," I said, reclining further into my chair. "I might stay here or maybe take a swim." She offered a brief smile, avoiding my eyes, before slipping out the door and pulling it shut behind her. As soon as she left, I waited a few minutes, then headed out myself. Staying far enough behind not to draw attention, I followed, each step driving my pulse higher. But Hannah didn't head toward the spa. Instead, she walked straight to the lobby, glancing around as though searching for someone. That's when I saw him, the same man, tall, dark-haired, exuding an easy confidence that twisted my stomach in knots. Her face lit up the instant she spotted him, her smile wide and genuine, hitting me like a blow. Keeping hidden behind a pillar, I pulled out my phone with unsteady hands and started recording, capturing every moment. They embraced, the hug lingering far longer than what friendship allowed, and she ran her hand down his arm in a way no platonic relationship could excuse. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their gestures said more than words ever could. After several minutes of quiet conversation, they wandered toward the bar. I kept a safe distance, choosing a spot where I could observe unnoticed. Hannah was completely absorbed in him. She laughed, freely, openly, her hand resting lightly on his arm as he leaned in, whispering something that made her cheeks flush. It was a side of her I hadn't seen in years, only it wasn't me drawing it out of her. It was him. I couldn't tear my eyes away. Every passing second weighed heavier on my chest. Stealthily, I snapped photo after photo, each one slicing deeper. As if to twist the knife, they finally stood, standing too close, and headed toward the elevators. And then, they kissed. A cold sweat broke over me, and I struggled to breathe. Dropping my gaze, I followed, still recording as they stepped into the elevator together. I caught their reflections in the polished steel doors just before they slid shut. An image burned into my mind forever. I took the stairs, barely aware of my own legs moving, my thoughts a tangled mess of disbelief and fury. Reaching their floor, I saw them at the far end of the hallway and lifted my phone to record once more. They kissed again, slower this time, deeper, her arms wrapping around his neck and pulling him closer before they disappeared into a room, the door clicking shut behind them. The sound echoed down the empty corridor, final and brutal. I stood there, fists clenched, heart hammering in my chest. A part of me wanted to burst in and confront them, but something held me in place. Quietly, I approached the door, pressing my ear against it. At first, I caught only murmured voices. Then came a laugh that had once been mine, now given freely to someone else. The conversation fell into softer, unmistakable sounds, intimate, damning. My stomach lurched, and I braced myself against the wall, phone still recording. Every noise from inside that room was another cut, another betrayal I could never forget. I filmed the door number and captured the sounds filtering through the thin walls, sickened by the grotesque reality of it all. But I needed it. Proof that I wasn't imagining things, that my instincts hadn't deceived me. I stayed there for what felt like an eternity, every minute another blow to everything we had built. When the sounds finally faded and silence blanketed the hall, I turned away, my hands shaking. I made my way back, thoughts spinning. This wasn't just infidelity. This was the complete collapse of the life we had shared. But now I had everything I needed, undeniable evidence, and I was ready to use it. That evening, I kept quiet. When Hannah returned, she behaved as though nothing had happened. "The massage was incredible," she said lightly, kicking off her sandals. I nodded, forcing a thin smile. "Glad you enjoyed it." But beneath the surface, rage simmered. With the photos, videos, and recordings I had gathered, her lies were about to unravel completely. Later that night, after Hannah had fallen into a deep sleep, I set my plan in motion. As her breathing evened out, I slid out of bed, my pulse pounding, a toxic mix of fury and cold resolve pushing me forward. It was time for her to face the truth. I pulled up the images and footage on my phone, attaching them to a terse, scathing message. "Looks like Hannah found someone to keep her company on our romantic getaway." Without hesitation, I sent it to our closest friends and family. Then, keeping the promise I had made to myself, I canceled her return flight. She wasn't going to walk away from this without consequence. The next morning, as I zipped up my suitcase, I heard her stirring. I tightened my grip on the handle and moved toward the door. As Hannah blinked awake and spotted me, confusion flickered across her face at the sight of me, suitcase in hand. "What are you doing, Nathaniel?" she whispered, her voice thick with drowsiness. "I'm leaving," I answered, my tone stripped of any emotion. There was no room left for feelings. "What? Why?" she asked, her voice trembling, as if the reality was slipping through her fingers. Without responding, I hurled my phone onto the bed. The screen illuminated a damning collection of images, her body entwined with another man's, his hands wandering freely, their mouths pressed together in a kiss that was never meant for him. "Why do you think?" I said, my words cutting sharply through the silence. Watching her features collapse in shock, the dawning horror etched into her face offered a brief, hollow satisfaction, but it wasn't nearly enough. The blood drained from her face as she fumbled for her phone. "Nathaniel, it's not what it seems." "Don't bother," I snapped, silencing her. "You wanted a vacation with him? Fine. Stay. But you're not coming home with me." The sentence dropped between us, heavy and final, yet it had to be said. Her mouth hung open in disbelief. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious," I replied, my voice like ice. "Your flight home? It's been canceled. Work it out with your new man." Without another word, I turned away, leaving her frozen in place. I made my way to the lobby, summoned a taxi, and left without looking back. The sting of betrayal still simmered, but beneath it was a surprising calm. I finally had clarity, and soon, so would everyone else. As the cab raced toward the airport, my mind began to clear. I had taken back control. Hannah had gambled recklessly, but I refused to remain her fool. She had made her choices. Now she would have to live with them. Once I returned home, the fallout began almost immediately. Messages flooded in, friends and family reacting with outrage, disbelief, or heartbreak. The sheer audacity of it all left many at a loss for words. Hannah called incessantly, but I let the phone ring. There was no conversation left to have. What she didn't know was that her betrayal went deeper than she realized. Earlier that day, while catching up on work at our computer, I noticed she hadn't logged out of her Facebook account. Fueled by grim curiosity, I clicked into her messages, and what I found hit harder than anything I had imagined. This wasn't a careless mistake. The man in those photos wasn't some fleeting indiscretion. He was a constant presence, someone she had been seeing for months. Their entire relationship was laid bare: the Caribbean trip, the secret plans, the careful plotting behind my back. They had orchestrated everything, weaving a detailed scheme to carry on without raising suspicion. She had promised him a hidden paradise he had eagerly accepted. Meanwhile, I had been kept completely in the dark. The betrayal was absolute. She hadn't simply been unfaithful. She had masterminded a deception so thorough it left no doubt. I wasn't just an ignored husband. I had been a pawn in her elaborate play. With the full scope of her lies exposed, my decision was easy. Divorce was inevitable. There was no rebuilding from this. Our marriage was already reduced to rubble. As I completed the divorce paperwork, I was surprised by a complex, bittersweet emotion. Grief intertwined with an unexpected sense of freedom. For years, I had convinced myself she was the one. Now, with unflinching clarity, I saw just how blind I had been. Blocking her number was the final step, severing the last thread to a life built on betrayal. She had destroyed what we once had, but in doing so, she also freed me. Eventually, Hannah and her lover made their relationship public. What had once been hidden flourished openly. For a time, it seemed she had found what she was looking for. But whispers soon surfaced, quiet rumors that the cracks were already forming. 7 months later, they split. Word spread that Hannah had strayed once more, repeating the very betrayal she had once inflicted on me. Looking back, I feel no regret. The road was rough, but sometimes destruction is necessary to clear a path forward. I escaped the tangle of deceit and reclaimed my life. For the first time in years, I was finally, and undeniably, at peace. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.